morning, Facebook world. How is everybody doing this morning? Um, it's a rainy Friday morning here. I'm going to pour all day, so thinking of ways that I'm going to keep my dogs occupied and from driving me nuts all day long. I found the comments. Okay. Facebook loves to move stuff around and add new buttons, and I can't help myself. I always have to press new buttons and see what happens. So never knew what was going to happen. So as always, please feel free to ask questions in the comments. I will answer throughout the live, so just ask away. I shared this live event on my Shake-a-Paw dog training page and my Canine Essentials with Paula Hoger group. If you want me to see the comments during the live, you need to actually post them on the Canine Essentials page. I will post the link in the comments, but I don't know if you're on a different page, if you can see the link. The choice of Facebook, there's always so many options. Okay, so hold on and I'll post the link in the comments for the Canine Essentials page, and that way you can find me if you want to. There we go. There we go. And there we go. Okay, now that that's taken care of, we'll get back to the live, which I'm very excited about today's live. Rate of reinforcements, how often you should reward your dog has made a humongous difference in my dog training. So I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. So if you are listening to the recording, let me know by using hashtag replay in the comments section. That way I can go back and answer any questions you have. For those of you on the call, say hello. I love to hear from you. Don't forget to show me some love by clicking the like button. My goal is to help you train your dog to be the dog you want. Before I go any further, let me just make this clear. Helping you train your dog to be the dog you want doesn't mean you don't love your dog. It just means there are things you would like to see improve. I always have people say, oh, I want to fix this, this, and this, but I still love my dog. Of course you still love your dog. Nobody's saying you don't. I love my dogs, even though sometimes they do things that I'm like, I don't love that. But I still love my dog, and there's nothing wrong with that. Good morning, Liz. How are you? It just means that some things would make life easier if your dog would stop or start doing them, like start coming when called and stop playing keep away. For both you and also your dog, because life is easier if they fully understand what's expected of them. It amazes me when even with a simple behavior like sit, there's 100 ways to teach sit. You can squish their butt down, you can crank up on their collar, you can use a hand signal, and even in the hand signal world, there's some clients who come to me and there's sit cues like this, and there's sit cues, all different things. And as long as you end up with the results you want, that is okay. But is it? Maybe not. Over the years, I have discovered different ways of training things, and I train the way I do because I feel it gives me the best results in the easiest way and clear for me and the dog. This live will give you some insights into how to think through various ways we reward our dogs and the results of those different ways. I am so excited to be taking it to this higher level today. Okay. Learning theory is the same for humans, horses, dogs, squirrels, etc. Understanding some of the key concepts will help you in training your dog because it's science, people. It's always the same. It's proven science studied at universities by really smart people who make it their job to figure out how things learn. It also fascinates me seeing all this stuff that I've been doing for years in my dog training applied to the human world. My son had to get speech therapy when he was young. Me and the therapist had such a great time talking learning theory and figuring out how she used it to apply speech therapy. Even stuff like telling someone to do something sometimes you need to give them a tactile cue. So with one of the letters, the tactile cue for my son was before he said the letter, he had to press his tongue to the top of his mouth because that is the way our mouths work when we say this letter correctly. With me, it's when I'm doing name game with a client, I'm always like, touch the back of your hand to your legs between your knees, because if that's your tactile reminder of what you're supposed to be doing. Because if you do that, that means you consistently reward in the right place and your dog learns what you want him to learn. So using tactile cues, I partially learned from my son's speech therapist, which I thought was fun. Okay. Good morning, Linda from Kingston, and good morning, Debbie. It's lovely to see you again, or hear you again, or see you right again. Okay, so and just as effective with the kids, she was working with as the dogs we are working with this learning theory. The biggest one is rate of reinforcement. Have you ever heard of the 80-20 rule? The 80-20 rule applies in many, many things in business, but in this case, we're going to talk about how it applies to reinforcement. The 80-20 rule is that when the training, in your case, your dog, when you're training, in your case, your dog needs to have 80% success to get the best results. So that means for every 10 questions you ask your dog, you need him to answer 8 correctly. Let me first define what a question is. All learning is just questions and answers. Can you do this? Yes or no. If your dog answers yes, that's great. You reinforce it because you want him, you're going, yeah, that's it. You're giving him information. If he answers no, at the beginning, you just withhold reinforcement, and that gives him information. That's not it. Try something else. If your dog answers on average less than 8 correctly, he is not doing his best learning. And notice I said on average. This isn't a hard, fast rule. This is a general rule. If your failure rate becomes too high, your dog will be unsure of what he's supposed to be doing, which will lead to lack of confidence and frustration. Frustration will look differently in every dog. Some will walk away, some will bark at you, some will get overly excited, some will start to sniff. A lot of this bad behavior we see is actually the dog giving you information that he doesn't understand what he's supposed to be doing. You are also creating the habit in your dog that when you ask for something, they go into these avoidance behaviors. Maybe this is the reason they aren't always listening, or in reality, asking questions back at you in their own doggy language. You see this a lot in agility. Since agility is off leash, the dogs get the opportunity to exhibit more frustration behaviors that you might, or it's more obvious than when you do it on leash and you can stop them. That doesn't take away the frustration when you stop them, but it does, and then it'll lead to bigger frustration behaviors. But it does make it easier for us to miss the frustration signals. So when you frustrate the dogs, they go into these avoidance behaviors, and it's much easier to see in agility. Things like dogs who leave the ring. You're doing agility, all of a sudden the dog walks out. Seen it piles of times. It's a big problem. And if your dog's leaving the ring, he's giving you a big chunk of information. This is not being as fun as it should be. You need to fix this. You could say, oh no, my dog's leaving the ring to go play with that dog over there. I will say mostly the dogs are leaving the ring and then find something else to do, and that could become a habit. They aren't finding something else to do, because again, if they're finding reinforcement from what you're doing, they wouldn't be looking for something else to do. Dogs who have the zoomies, dogs who go in there and don't leave but just run around full spin. Yeah, that's usually a dog that's an up stressor. There's down stressors and up stressors. Up stressors are dogs who get more excited when they get nervous or stressed or ask questions or frustrated. Zoomies would be that. Dogs who sniff. You see that a lot in agility. You see that dog who's just sniff, sniff, sniff. That is definitely a frustration behavior. They're all avoidance behaviors because of being frustrated. That started because the dog had questions that didn't get answered. I feel bad. I really do. I see the owners doing their best, but like their dogs, they're also becoming very frustrated. The first step I take with my clients is digging into the problems they are having and finding the true root cause. And sometimes this takes a little work to figure out what actually started the behavior. Most often, it's some sort of disconnect. The disconnect comes in the form of a question that the dog has that was not answered. Oftentimes, their owner had no idea the question was even there. A lot of times I have a hard time getting the owner to believe the question was even there. I get it. I have been there saying my dog knows this, and he's just being stubborn or bad or whatever. But really, no matter what you think, if your dog isn't doing it, he doesn't understand it, or there's not enough value. Like, I've had people, they're holding a cookie, they ask the dog to sit, and the dog stands there and looks at them, and they're like, oh, he's so stubborn. Really? If your dog wanted that cookie, he'd sit if he understood, wouldn't he? Stubborn is not doing something to, there's a benefit to it for you. There's no benefit there for the dog. They are not being stubborn. Once we accurately find the question being asked by the dog, we can create a plan that works for both members of the team, human and animal, and get them on the same page. I see it a lot with adolescent dogs and sit. Adolescent dogs' bodies change an incredible amount in a very short time. And sometimes their physical, they can sit, but their physical ability to organize their body to sit sometimes is hard. So you cue the sit, and what I see usually is the dog will move a back paw, but doesn't actually sit. And then, because we are right away going, my dog knows this, he should be doing it, we can't help ourselves, we lean in and add social pressure going sit, sit, sit. And a lot of times what happens is the dog's kind of stuck because they moved a foot. And I think in their little brain, they're like, well, I moved a foot, I did sit, but really they don't. And this comes to how much body awareness dogs have. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. What I do if I have a dog who I cue the sit and I feel understands the sit, and my dog looks at me and goes, I have no idea what that word means. I take a step back, let them reorganize their body and cue it again, giving them an opportunity to move their body. And most of the time they come in and sit, especially if you give the sit cue as they're moving, it seems to make it much easier. But once they lock in with their back legs back, it's like they're stuck and they can't figure it out. I had a Chesapeake Bay Retriever who, when she was in a crate, her butt would hit the back of the crate, and if you asked her to sit, she couldn't do it. And it took her forever to figure out that wasn't a sit, and it took me forever to figure out why she wasn't sitting. My general rule when teaching something to my dog is this: if I get more than 2 mistakes in a row, I make the exercise easier. I suggest to all my clients and followers to adopt this approach for one simple reason. Your dog is not being bad. Your dog is not being stubborn. Your dog is unsure of what you are asking, period. Said in a different way, your dog is asking you a question. It would be unfair to punish your dog because they have a question about your expectations that was never taught to them, or they don't understand at the moment. Solve the question, solve the behavior puzzle. Next week, I will talk more about failure and how it is important to each piece of the puzzle. But right now, just think about it this way. Your job as the trainer, if you want to fix behavior issues or teach a new behavior or improve the behavior you have, if you want that amazing focus, no matter what, is to take the questions your dog has and explain them in a better way to help them find answers. Dogs love to work. When we give them the information they need, they are happy to work with us. I can hear you thinking, no, 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 my dog knows this behavior. He is just being stubborn. I can tell you I have hundreds of hours of videos, thousands even. I've been doing this for a really long time. I can show you the finite details of your dog's body language. And then watch closely, the dog is showing all sorts of signs that it isn't sure what you want. I had a training session with my Border Collie yesterday where we've had all sorts of problems with Down to where I want it to be. And yesterday I felt she could achieve this level, and she was like, but I'm here. And I kept making it easier, and she kept going, because once you start to make mistakes, multiple mistakes, the dog, she starts getting really like, I don't know what you want. So then she starts offering behavior. So you can tell her confidence goes in the crapper. So I needed to stop that training session. I didn't even work on Down for the rest of the day or the rest of the training session. I was just like, I need to walk away. I need to start back again the next time. Super easy, perfect, 10 out of 10 questions. And then start asking questions again. Because I guarantee you, when I watched that video, my rate of reinforcement was low. Your dog isn't being stubborn. And I knew that. Though my brain was going to that, you're just not listening stage. See, I still go there too. You just ask questions that haven't been answered. If you still believe your dog is disobeying you just to spite, let me reframe that too. Thinking this way accomplishes nothing. It will not help you fix the problem. It will only make you resent your situation and ultimately lead you no closer to living the life you want with your dog. So you may as well treat it as a solvable question and answer equation. This mindset gives you the framework to move forward. I've gone through all these frameworks in my 25 years training dogs, and that whole, oh, your dog's being dominant and alpha. And I'm like, not only has that whole paradigm been debunked, it also didn't help you train your dog. It just put you into a state of fear. Oh my God, my dog's being dominant. What do I do? My dog's taking over. That was such a horrible, horrible whole paradigm. There are only two reasons a dog will not perform a cue. This is a very general two reasons, but it is two reasons. The first one, he is overfaced. That means the environment is taking too much of their brain and he can't engage it with you. He may be able to hear you, but can't process what you're asking. This could be due to excitement or to fear or to stress. The answer to this question, you guessed it, my ODR game, how I work through this issue. Observe, don't react. This game shows you where your dog's brain's at and his ability to process information in that environment. This game got created over 20 years, but one of the last pieces was the voluntary attention, because it was actually Ig, my 10-year-old border collie, or now 11-and-a-half-year-old border collie, who we'd go places and we'd stand there and he'd be able to watch. But when I'd call him, it was la, 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 no listening. And I'd call him and I'd get super frustrated and I'd put pressure on him. And he was like, the more I did that, the more he was like, la, 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 la. You know what? He's 11-and-a-half. His recall is super good. But he still has moments where he's like, nope, my ears are turned off to you, because I spent so much time trying to get his attention and not being able to. And I watch my clients' videos where they're like fighting with their dog for attention. And I'm like, yep, that's the problem. With ODR, you set the dog up to voluntarily give you attention. Does my dog still need a recall off of everything? Yes. And do I use that? Yes. But when I want to also give them the opportunity to be able to voluntarily give me attention. And the more I give them that opportunity, the more they do it. So your recall is a thing that will grow and get better. But that opportunity to give you voluntary attention is the key. If given the opportunity, the dog would rather watch than distraction, then that's huge information for you. So I'll give you a human example. Imagine you are having a conversation with someone. At the same time, you know there's someone coming up behind you holding a huge snake. You are terrified of snakes. Most people are, so it's a good example. And if you're not, think of something the person's carrying that does terrify you. Every time you try to check where the person is with the snake, the person you are speaking to goes, hey, 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 pay attention to me, I'm talking to you. How stressful will that make you? Well, partly that will depend how scared you are of the person carrying the snake, how much you trust them, are they not going to go near you with the snake, and how much you're terrified of snakes. How much attention are you paying to the speaker? You may look at the speaker, you may fake that you are listening, a little piece of your brain may be listening, but deep down your brain is completely engaged with the person approaching with the snake. This is a dog who's overfaced. You want them to pay attention to you, but they just can't. Here's another human example. I have a 12-year-old son, like I said earlier. Anyone who is a child this age, especially a boy, understands they lose their ability to think. It's ridiculous. My husband's constantly reminding me, but he's a 12-year-old boy. I think he understands better because he was a 12-year-old boy. Or I just don't remember my childhood. Simple things like he is in such a hurry to go outside, he forgets to close the door. He knows to close the door. He has been reminded up to times to close the door. But his brain is so focused on what he's about to do, he forgets what he should be doing. He is not purposely not closing the door. If I remind him, he will go back and close the door. He just completely forgets because he's focused on something else. The ODR game is all about teaching your dog to learn to get comfortable with their environment, to learn, like my son, to remind him how to focus on the job at hand. Ever hear the words be present? Yeah, that's what he needs to do. Job at hand, and learn to engage their brain regardless of what is going on. When playing ODR, you wait for your dog to voluntarily give up the environment and pay attention to you. By giving you this attention, your dog is letting you know he feels safe and confident in those surroundings and is able to work and is ready to work. The other reason your dog doesn't do what he's asked is because he really doesn't understand the cue. We think they understand the cue, but in reality, they don't. For example, in the house, you say your dog's name and your dog sits and you give him a cookie. I see this all the time with my clients. In fact, to the point with my puppy clients, I don't want them to work on sit till their recalls are strong because I see the sit being rewarded so much more than the recall. And the sit is the opposite of coming when called. The sit is actually working on stay, which is not coming. You are teaching your dog that when you hear your name, you sit and get a cookie. It sounds great, right? But now you're standing in a field, you call your dog and he sits. You get frustrated, your dog isn't coming, you might get a little more aggravated in your calls. He knows how to do this. You're like, he does this all the time in the house. But does he? In the house, his name means sit. In the field, it means come. You have rewarded the sit a lot. It's so easy to reward it in the house in day-to-day life. But the come likely doesn't get anywhere close to the amount of cookies that the name sit gets. Now you are frustrated and your dog doesn't understand why. This is when you get those avoidance behaviors like sniffing or running away. Your dog has no idea why you're not happy, but he does understand you're not happy. Your dog has no idea what's going on and may just say, I'm out, and walk away because there's a whole field to explore that is away from you and the pressure you're putting on him. Remember earlier, I said in the agility, your dog doesn't leave the ring to go to the distraction. Your dog leaves the ring and then finds the distraction. I have done this to my dog, so I understand how this works. All because of a misunderstanding of what their name means, which for my clients, the name means come to me, or for my dogs, the name means come to me. The rules you taught them aren't consistent. Your cues are not clear. Dog training is just questions and answers. Proofing is how you figure out what your dog understands and what your dog doesn't understand. I remember years ago being told, and this is about corrections, but you have to earn the right to correct your dog, but you have to know your dog knows this before you earn the right to correct your dog. But my question was always, well, how do I know what my dog knows? Proofing is how you know what your dog knows. If you want to delve deeper into the topic of proofing, AKA raising your dog's ability to understand more complex questions and you to be clear on what your dog actually knows, go ahead and type hashtag proofing in the comments. And this is how you get past that level of dog that can only sit in my kitchen so your dog can sit when a squirrel runs by. That's our goal, right? Your dog, you can say sit, and no matter what's going on, your dog's butt hits the ground and goes, got it. If enough people are interested, I'll make a live about this for you all. So back to reinforcement. The key to teaching any behavior is to build confidence and understanding by answering the dog's questions. Practically, we can accomplish this by maintaining an approximate 80% success rate. You maintain an 80% success rate by being realistic when giving a cue. That means that unless you have practiced calling your dog off movement and had success, calling your dog when he is chasing the bunny is just teaching your dog that when I call you when you are chasing a bunny, coming is optional. We never, ever, ever want coming, or any other cue for that matter, to be considered optional. You want to always protect your cues so that your dog understands that when I say this, I expect it. If it doesn't work, then you have to figure out why. Okay, I've missed some comments. Debbie, my tone of voice is a huge difference in their Jetta come. Yes, your tone of voice is. I actually, when I'm training, will train different tones because sometimes you're in a bad mood because, life sucks. And you call your dog and your dog thinks you're annoyed with them and doesn't come. So I actually think of things that will annoy me and call my dog and reinforce them so he understands. Even when I don't sound happy, you still need to come when called. Julie, should I ask the command without saying their name? I was saying their name before caller, down, etc. No, because when you say a command and then their name comes, when you say her name and then the command comes afterwards, she should be heading towards you. Like if I say Fido, sit, they're going to turn and come towards me, and that's fine. But I don't say their name if they're already paying attention to me. If they're looking at me, I'm just going to say down, collar, whatever. Julie, cue rather than command. You know what I mean. Yes, I understand what you mean, Julie. Okay, I think I answered all of those. Okay, where was I? You want to manage your dog's world so that you don't put your dog in situations that would have you breaking the 80% rule. That means I run my dog in a field that's nowhere near a road and completely safe. So if a bunny were to go by, I'm not going to call my dog knowing the odds of him coming are very not likely. Excuse me. So then the bunny would go by, my dog would chase the bunny, and then I would depend on my invisible leash skills to get my dog to come back to me. So if you want, I'm not going to go into invisible leash work here, but if you want to learn more about invisible leash, message me in the comments and I will definitely do a live on that later on. I did do a mini live just recently on it. Okay, to grow behavior to get to the point of being able to do this is simple, but not easy. I would start this by practice by playing ODRs. So let's say I wanted to work on my dog learning to come off motion. Start on a leash. Can your dog watch your kids running around the yard calmly? Kids love to play these games. Use your neighbor's children if you don't have any. It's a great way to get your dog very comfortable with children and teach your dog to come when called. So you're standing playing ODR, and can your dog watch the kids running around calmly? The dog's calm, the kids are excited. If you can't, add some distance or get the kids to walk around the yard at first till your dog can't. Your first goal is kids running around screaming. Your dog can sit there and go, yep, kids are running around. I can do this. Great. You're going to reward that. Now, the next stage of ODR, you want your dog to go, those kids are no longer that exciting. I'm going to voluntarily give you attention. And now you're going to work your recall. So the dog's going, kids running around behind me. I come when I'm called. Awesome. Great next step. Once your dog is good at this, then you're going to let your dog loose with the kids. At first, you can have the kids just walking around and your dog interacting with them or doing whatever. And since the dog's off leash, you can let them drag a leash if necessary. Now you've added another challenge. You want to try to add only one challenge at a time. So this time, when you call your dog, you're going to tell all the kids to freeze. So it's going to make it easier for the dog to disengage from the kids and come to you. So now you're going to call your dog, everyone freezes, and you give it a minute. Does your dog come? No? Okay, no problem. You're going to go back to putting them on leash and going back to the first step. And you keep doing this and you keep testing once in a while till your dog's going, got it. When you call me and the kids are moving around, I come. Because remember, the kids aren't going to interact and they're going to freeze. So there's no reward by continuing to chase the kids. And give them a minute. Don't panic. Give them a minute to be like, nothing's happening. What if I come? Woo-hoo-hoo. You go back and you play that till your dog spins on a dime and runs to you as soon as you call. Okay, I have a comment. Victoria, please remind me what ODR is. ODR is observe, don't react. I'm kind of walking through it in this example, but it's how we teach the dog to learn how to keep the brain in their head. You start with your leash hand on your body and can your dog maintain a loose leash? There is a Facebook Live. I will post the link in the comments. I will make myself a note. Post the links in the comments when I'm done the live. Okay, done. Okay, so success is what's telling you. So you're in the backyard with the kids and your dog's successes, your dog's answers to the questions are what tells you when it's time to move on. And this might take you 2 months. This might take you a weekend. It all depends on the dog and the dog's sensitivity to motion, the dog's excitement, how much he likes the kids. This is also exactly how I did work with my border collie on not chasing my child around and biting at him. So now you make it a little harder. This time when you call your dog, the kids don't freeze, but they slow down to a walk. So they just walk aimlessly and don't look at the dog. Can the dog come? And again, I'd switch between freezing and walking till the dog was brilliant. Continue to practice until your dog you can call your dog off a bunch of kids running around, playing and screaming. So you see how you built it. I broke down the behavior and I built it, building value at each step till the dog's like, I got it. I understand. Regardless of the kids running around, I have to come when called. If he didn't come at any point, that's giving you information that he's not ready for that stage. And remember, if you're working with a young dog, an adolescent dog, they've got hormones and all sorts of stuff happening. So it might work one day and the next day he has a hard time. That's fine. You work with the dog in front of you. The biggest thing here is don't keep calling, and even worse, don't chase. So now I'm out in the field with the bunny and I've done all this work and I'm like, you know what? I think it's going to work. So the bunny runs across and I call my dog and he doesn't come. Okay, that's information. I need more work. And if he does, you have a huge party. I remember I was walking my dogs off leash and we were on a trail and this bird took off in front of us. Like the bird was on the trail and took off flew low directly down the trail. And one of my dogs chased the bird and I was like, I want to see. And I called him and he spun on a dime. It was freaking amazing. But that was information because the time this was really necessary, I would be 99% sure my dog could come off motion. So it's fine to test, but then take that information and use it. Don't take that information and go, oh, I'm going to call you and call you and call you and teach your dog not to come when the movement's happening. Okay, everything I teach follows the 80% rule. You will regularly have to break down behaviors so that you can maintain an 80% success rate. Let's say you want to teach your dog to sit with well-being pet, which is a question I get all the time. You know, when your dog gets close to people, he loses his mind and there's no way he can listen to a sit cue. Good information. But can the dog listen to you when the person is 10 or even 20 feet away? You've got to figure what this distance is for your dog. So I would be doing ODR. When the dog voluntarily looks at me, then I would cue the sit, I would reward, and then you're going to maintain your stay criteria. So you reward multiple times, give your release, either okay or break, and take one step forward. Again, ODR, every step of the way, ODR, you're going to stop. And I bet you your dog after a couple of times is like, oh, I know this game. I'm going to stop and right away I'm going to look at you. So he's making the choice to look away from the person and look at you. You're going to cue the sit as you get closer and closer. Now, maybe there's a point where your dog's brain goes, no, we're done. I can only pay attention to the person. And that's where you stop. That's your information. That doesn't mean it'll be like that forever. It means it's like that right now. My new baby border collie, who's now 14 months old, possibly even 15 months old, she loves people. And I realized what my mistake was I would play this game and then I would let her go see. And I should have walked away more often so that she could control herself better, because she's fine now at about 3-4 feet. At the average distance that you'll see people in the world, especially with COVID, nobody gets that close. She is totally capable of handling it. But once they get closer than that, she gets super excited because I let her go see when she wasn't calm. So sometimes you allow stuff that you're like, man, that's going to bite me in the butt, but I'm going to allow it anyways because it's cute. And that's fine. I never correct her for it because I know I've created that. That's being clear on what your criteria is and then understanding what your dog is capable of. So keep doing this. So the dog's walking towards the person, sit. If the dog fails, you walk away because the reward would be getting to see the person. So you don't want to go any closer when he's not able to control himself. So this is how we broke down the main goal, working towards that maintaining that 80% rule. Eventually, I would have the dog walk right up to the person and sit, and then I would work on, can the person touch you? Flat hand on the head, not, oh, hi, and working up to, oh, hi, and the dog going, I can do this. So that might take you, again, depending on your friendliness of your dog. If you've got a dog who's like, meh, then that might take you 10 minutes. If you've got a dog who's super friendly, that will take you maybe a month, maybe two, depending how often you practice. Back to our notes so we stay on track. Like us, dogs can't possibly acquire fully trained skills in one session. So have that expectation. Understand some of this, especially with young dogs, adolescent dogs. It's going to take a while. Consistency and continuing to train, and they will get it, but you have to be patient and you have to accept what your dog is capable of doing, especially if they have a history of habits doing what you don't want. It's going to take time to create a new habit, create a new set of triggers, behaviors, the whole bit. If instead you just keep approaching the person and fighting with your dog to sit, I promise you this behavior will get worse, not better. You will be allowing your dog to practice the behaviors you don't want, losing their mind next to a person, and answering the question with the wrong answer. Battling never ends well. Trust me, I know this from experience, mostly because you end up reinforcing the behavior you are trying to fix. I said at the beginning that during the live, I was going to tell you when you could stop rewarding your dog. The simple answer is never. You reward your dog every day in many different ways, not just with food. That doesn't mean you're going to need to use food for the rest of your life, but yet, why not? You want to be paying attention to what you are rewarding. I'll give you an example that I've been working through with my board and train Nanook. One of her issues is playing keep away. We started with very controlled collar grabs, building value for the behavior. I just wanted her to want me to touch and control her through the collar. Within a couple of days, she was comfortable with me grabbing her collar in that controlled setting when we were training, and she knew I had cookies. I started with, and that's the picture I posted in the comments. I started with her on leash so she couldn't move away from me. I had my management tools in place. Time to up the challenge. I decided that I wanted to grab her collar before she went out the patio door with the rest of the dogs. Just because I now started to I wanted to put this into a real life scenario. I calmly reached for her and she backed away. I tried again, asked twice, and listened to the information she was giving me. This was not going to work the way I was doing it. On speaking to the owner, I found out that this was a practice scenario, so the door area was a trigger to play keep away. So this is the list of what I was rewarding and not rewarding. At the time, I stood up, took a deep breath, resetting the behavior and stopping me from going into chase mode and rewarding keep away. This is the hard part, that we're like, I'm going to grab your collar, and now you chase them, and now they play keep away, and for this dog, it's a super reinforced behavior, so bad thing. Like, I wouldn't have caught her, and if I did, it would have been way too much reinforcement of the behavior I didn't want. But I had put in a set of skills that I wanted to see how this would work. I offered my left hand, which I had taught her to move towards by playing collar grab game, without reaching forward to promote keep away. It took a couple of tries, but she eventually went, fine, take my collar, and was rewarded by me by opening the door and letting her out with everybody else. The reward here was being let outside. I also took a look at what had transpired and decided that I didn't want to go through that every day, every time I wanted to let them out. Because even though she did eventually let me take her collar and get rewarded, she also practiced moving away from me multiple times. And every time she practiced moving away and I didn't catch her, she got reinforced for moving away. So the next session, I was prepared with the new information I learned about her. New plan. I let her see me go to the cookie jar and get a cookie before I grabbed her collar at the door. This went back to the history I'd already created by, we do collar grabs and it's lots of fun when we have cookies. Yes, she knows I have a cookie, but she lets me grab her collar every time, no problem, creating the behavior I want. And I went to the door and acted just like if I was going to let them out, how the behavior would look. I didn't change the sequence. I just started the sequence with grabbing a cookie. This is important. We need to create behaviors before we ask them of the dog. I will practice this for a few days and then I tried again without going to grab the cookie out of the jar first. Because we have spent a few days practicing grabbing the collar at the door, today she let me walk up, grab the collar at the door, starting to create the new habit of letting me take the collar at the door, replacing the old habit she had of in the door area, when I go to grab for you, you run away. The reward then is opening the door, and the behavior will eventually lead to a sit stay until released at all doorways, if that's where I choose to go with her or her owner chooses to do with her. So this is not so easy. This is the not so easy answer to when is it okay to stop rewarding. Your dog will let you know by what they do, by the answers they have or don't have around the questions you are asking them. If a behavior starts to fall apart, then you need to go back and do some work. If a behavior stays strong, then that behavior is being self-rewarded and you don't need to worry about it. Okay, that was a big live, packed of a lot of information and a lot of high-level stuff that you're going to have to go home and percolate on. A few things before I sign off. If you haven't already, let me know by using #proofing if you want me to do the live on proofing. I've just opened up enrollment into our Canine Reset program again. This is where I teach you all these concepts in these lives, custom tailored to you, your dog, and your lifestyle. Warning in advance, only a few spots are open and they tend to go quickly. And first dibs always goes to my returning students. Basically, we deep dive into what's going on, create a training plan to fix what you don't like, and a growth plan to let you go to the next level. These are done remotely over Zoom using video analysis, live chat, back and forth communication, and a bunch of other fun modalities. Even my local clients are doing them online now because the results are proving to be better than when I am teaching you in person. There's no new distractions for the dog. We can keep the dog's questions to a minimum and employ the 80% rule from the very beginning. And then we gradually add the distractions as necessary for your dog to maintain success. The other thing I really like about remote is you have the video recording, which allows you to review and process the information at your speed. If you want to sign up for Canine Reset, just send me an email at info@dogtraining.ca or message me here on Facebook. The cost is $350 Canadian, a steal for my American clients, and will be going up soon. So last chance to get in at this price. Like I've said, I have only a few student spots available, so first come, first served. Thank you very much for spending this 45 minutes with me and listening to how to use rewards. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next Friday morning at 10 a.m. for a live I'm going to do on failure and why failure is so important to your dog training. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys.